New Maid reveals incredible truth, slaps billionaire boss and changes his life forever in 30 days. Maria stood at the base of a glittering high-rise, the wind whipping through her hair, a single mother battling the odds. Each day etched a grueling routine into her bones as she shoved her mop across the floors of David Sanders' empire, where polished marble reflected the ambition of men like him. But it wasn't just the floors she scrubbed, it was the shadows of her past that clung to her, from symbols of her family's unwavering struggle in a world painted gold. Was she destined to live in the shadows while others soared in the limelight? With every sweep, she inhaled the perfume of success that hung in the air. It was intoxicating yet suffocating. Maria could see David through the glass walls of his office, buried under mountains of reports. He was a titan of the industry, yet the weight of his ambition crushed those who served him. Day after day, she encountered his cold glares, witnessing the way he dismissed employees who had families to feed. Her heart ached for them, but the fire in her heart burned hotter for the well-being of her daughter. Mommy. Her daughter's face sparkled in her mind, her sweet laugh echoing. Maria would lift her from this cycle, and for that, she'd wage her battles, even against the giants. One evening, the office air turned electric, thick with tension. Maria watched in disbelief as David fired a hard-working employee over a minor error. The man's shoulders slumped as he stepped out, his face pale. Something within Maria snapped, a light igniting in her chest. She stormed toward David's office, unafraid of his power. "You don't get to treat people like this," she shouted, her hands shaking. "You hide behind your empire, but there are real people here. You're so focused on getting more, you forget what's at stake." Then, in the heat of her fury and desperation, Maria delivered a heartfelt slap across his face, not just for the employee who left, but for every struggling soul trapped underneath the weight of his success. For a moment, time stood still. Gasps rippled through the office as David stared at her, surprise wrinkling his brow. The contempt in his eyes faded, replaced by something raw self-awareness. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Summer blazed bright outside, but inside Maria felt a shift. Could she change a man like him? In the days that followed, they were drawn together, strange companions navigating the complexities of privilege and perseverance. David, transformed by that slap, began to see beyond his boardroom. Maria introduced him to community events he'd never deemed important, volunteering, speaking to those his decisions affected. Each moment sparked a transformative tension. Would he rise to create meaningful change? Maria's heart raced. "What kind of leader are you willing to become, David?" she challenged, the words hanging heavy between them. Inside this gaudy tower, amidst all that glitters, the truth waited to be uncovered. Their destinies intertwined, each wrestling with their past. But as time passed, could this unlikely bond withstand the storm of unmasked truths and revealed identities? What would happen when worlds collided? Days turned into weeks, and the air felt different. Maria and David found a rhythm in their unlikely partnership. Morning coffee runs became mission planning sessions, layered with filled conversations. He listened intently. She shared stories of single motherhood, dreams for her daughter, and tales of resilience from the neighborhood. At first, David scrambled to keep pace. Each story cracked the cautious shell he had built, revealing the man who, deep down, wanted to do more than just profit from others. Occasionally, his gaze would drift toward her while she spoke, as if trying to decipher how she managed to carry the weight of her world so gracefully. One afternoon, under a tapestry of weeping clouds, Maria convinced him to join a charity event. David hesitated, toggling between his business-focused self and the new man he wished to become. But with her encouragement and a promise that the event would be an eye-opener, he agreed. The venue was overflowing with laughter, bright lights, and the hum of conversation. Maria thrived amidst the chaos, her smile infectious. David, dressed in his usual tailored suit, felt out of place, fidgeting with his cufflinks. She noticed immediately, her laughter ringing out as she nudged him. "Relax. It's not a board meeting," she teased. Yet, as they moved through the crowd, a sense of discomfort washed over him. He watched people mingle, giving their time, their effort for something bigger than themselves. The stark contrast to his boardroom felt jarring. How often had he overlooked this side of humanity? During a break, Maria led him to a small stage where locals shared stories of hardship and hope. Their voices echoed in his ears. One man, a former factory worker, described the struggle of raising 3 kids after losing his job. David's heart clenched. He hadn't just fired employees, he had crushed dreams. "David." Maria's voice cut through his thoughts as he glanced at her, eyes wide. "You can change this. You have the power." Her words burned, igniting a realization deep inside him. He felt the weight of his wallet, once a source of pride, transforming into a burden. What good was wealth without impact? The evening wound down, and they stood outside in the cool night air. "Did you feel it?" Maria asked, excitement dancing in her voice. "You connected with them. Just think what we could do together." He hesitated, words tumbling in his mind. "I don't know how to do charity. I've built my life around profit." With warmth radiating from her presence, she replied, "Charity isn't just about giving money. It's about giving hope, listening. You can learn." In that moment, he could see a future one painted with possibility, where his life wasn't just about what he owned, but what he could give back. But would he have the courage to step into this new path? Days passed, and just as David began to embrace this budding transformation, an unexpected storm brewed. Voices rose in the office, whispers of a looming merger that could change everything. Betrayal shadowed the horizon. What would happen if the company he worked so hard to build was in jeopardy? Would he have to choose between his new ideals and the empire he once cherished? As he wrestled with these thoughts, the weight of decisions loomed heavier than before. Could he navigate this storm while holding on to the heart that Maria had awakened within him? Or would ambition prevail once again, leaving behind everything he had learned? The winds were shifting, and change was in the air, though what form it would take was uncertain. The phone rang, sharp and insistent, cutting through the whispers in David's office. He glanced down, the screen flashing with an unknown number. Hesitantly, he answered. It was Sam, a trusted colleague. David's heart sank as he listened to the urgency in Sam's voice. The merger was real, and it wasn't just whispers anymore, it was happening soon. "David, listen. We need to rally the team. They have already started making cuts. If you don't take a stand, we might lose everything," Sam urged, frustration evident in his tone. David closed his eyes, resting his forehead against the cool glass of the window. The view of the city, sparkling with lights, felt like a false promise. Each light represented a life connected to his decisions. Just weeks ago, he was consumed by profit margins and success. Now, everything was spiraling, and the new path he wanted felt miles away. "Meet me in the conference room," he finally replied, trying to steady his racing heart. As he walked through the office, he felt the weight of judgmental stares. Colleagues he had once seen as competition were now his allies. David stepped into the conference room, and a wave of familiar faces greeted him. Each shared a sense of uncertainty, but with it, he could see a flicker of hope. "Everyone," David began, voice shaky yet determined. "I know this merger could tear us apart. But we've built more than just a company. We've built a community, and I won't let it slip away without a fight." Eager eyes met his, searching for direction. He couldn't help but recall Maria's words, how they lingered in the back of his mind. We need to look beyond profit. We can come together and show them our value, what we mean to this community. As he spoke, energy shifted in the room. People leaned in, nodding. The fear began to meld into determination. For the first time, he felt truly alive, fueled by something greater than himself. Hours passed, and plans began to form. They prepared a proposal highlighting the company's role in the community. David felt a sense of purpose he hadn't experienced before. He was no longer just a name on a sign, a figure in a meeting. He was part of something bigger. After the meeting, exhaustion washed over him, but it didn't drown out the memory of Maria's smile. He needed her by his side, to remind him of the world he had started to see again. Grabbing his coat, he headed out, eager to find her. Maria was at her usual cafe, wrapped in a cozy green blanket, her laughter filling the air among friends. When she spotted him, the light in her eyes brightened. "David! You look fired up," she exclaimed, gliding toward him. The words tumbled out before he thought. "I want your help. I'm standing up for our company, for the community, but I can't do it alone. I need you." Her expression shifted, surprise mingling with excitement. "You really mean that?" The old David would never ask for help. "Yeah," he admitted, a tiny smile breaking through his worry. "I guess I'm learning. But I want to make this right, for every person who works here. They deserve better." "Let us do it together," she replied, her voice steady and sure. "We can show them. We can change things." They spent the evening brainstorming, fueled by coffee and a shared conviction. The cold city stirred outside, but warmth filled the space between them. A newfound bond blossomed as they tapped into each other's strengths and hopes, laughter punctuating their planning. But just as their spirits lifted, David's phone buzzed. It was a text from Sam, filled with concern. The merger pressing down on them had made things worse. He needed to act fast. As he stared at the message, doubt clouded his thoughts. Would he really be able to pull this off? Could they uplift each other when everything felt like it was about to fall apart? The stakes were rising, and the clock was ticking. David had to choose between the past he knew and the future he craved. Could they forge a new path together, or would the looming shadows drag them back to where they started? The answer was just out of reach, and he felt the pulse of uncertainty quicken under his skin. David's heart raced as he read Sam's message, anxiety twisting in his gut. The world around him faded, the bustling cafe drowning in noise, yet all he could hear was that whisper of doubt. Would they really be able to turn the tide? Maria leaned closer, noticing the sudden shift in his demeanor. "What did Sam say?" she asked, concern etched across her brow. "They're making cuts," David replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "If we don't act fast, we could lose everything we've built." Determination flared up in Maria's eyes. "Then let us show them who we are. Let us make our proposal irresistible." Her belief ignited a spark within him. They exchanged ideas, diving deep into the heart of what made their company special, weaving together their narratives and the impact they had on the community. David felt a rush of inspiration as he scribbled notes, Maria's energy infectious. But in the back of his mind, Sam's message loomed like a storm cloud, darkening his thoughts. What if it wasn't enough? What if they failed? "Hey," Maria said, breaking his worry. "Stop overthinking. Remember why we're doing this." She pointed at the notes scattered on the table. "Every name here isn't just a number. They're people. This matters. To them. To us." David nodded, absorbing her words. She had a way of cutting through his doubt. They wrapped up their brainstorming as twilight settled, the city lights flickering awake outside. "Let us get some rest," Maria suggested. "We need fresh minds in the morning." He agreed, but sleep didn't come easy. Thoughts of the impending merger swirled wildly, each scenario worse than the last. What if their efforts went unnoticed? What if no one cared enough to hold on to their community? Time slipped through his fingers as he tossed and turned. Morning light broke through his window, harsh and bright. After a quick shower and coffee, he felt a flicker of hope again. At the office, the atmosphere was tense. The murmurs were heavier today, the air thick with uncertainty. David caught Sam's eye across the room. "Let's huddle," he called. "I have an idea." They gathered a small group of key colleagues, each one bringing unique perspectives. As they started mapping out the proposal, David could feel the weight shifting. Discussions flowed, laughter occasionally breaking through the tension. Hours passed until finally, they hammered out a solid plan. It was bold and community-focused, showcasing not just profit but the souls behind the work. As the team wrapped up, David felt a swell of pride. They weren't just presenting a business case, they were giving a voice to their mission. "All right, everyone," he said, standing before the group. "Tonight, we present this. This is our chance. Let us remind them what we mean to our community." With renewed energy, they broke apart to prepare for the evening meeting with the higher-ups. David's heart thrummed an anxious beat, his fingers tapping nervously against his desk. "Hey," Maria said, appearing at his side unexpectedly. "You're not alone in this." He looked up, finding strength in her gaze. "I know. And I'm so grateful to have you by my side." "Let us make them see," she replied, just as determined as ever. As they headed into the meeting, David felt the tension in his shoulders start to ease. They presented their vision with enthusiasm, fired by passion for their cause. One by one, nods from the executives seemed promising. But then, just as it felt like victory was within grasp, one executive leaned forward, skepticism etched across their face. "I'm not convinced this will sustain profits." "What about the future?" David's heart sank. The question loomed ominously, swirling in his mind. They had poured everything into this. Would they stand their ground, or would they be pushed back again? The room fell silent as everyone awaited his response. He took a deep breath, feeling Maria's reassuring presence beside him. Could he turn it around? Could he show them that their vision was worth fighting for? The moment of truth hung heavy in the air, and David knew everything hung in the balance. What could he say that would shift the tides of doubt? David's heart pounded in his chest as the executive's challenge echoed in his ears. He could feel the weight of the room, the expectation, the uncertainty. The silence was deafening. Everyone was watching, waiting for him to respond. He swallowed hard and glanced at Maria, who flashed him an encouraging smile. It was a simple gesture, yet it bore the weight of all their late nights, their hopes, and their dedication. With that one look, he found a flicker of confidence deep within. "Let me paint a picture for you," David began, his voice steadier than he felt. "Imagine a community that thrives because of the relationships we've built and the trust we've fostered. Yes, profits matter, but they will only come if we invest in the very people who breathe life into this company. We're not just another business, we are a part of their lives." The executives shifted slightly, intrigue sparking in their eyes. It wasn't just about numbers and charts anymore, it was about connection. David pressed on, feeling the words flowing through him. "Our unique approach has always been community-driven. While others cut corners to save a buck, we believe in making choices that might seem costly now but will pay dividends in loyalty and respect down the line. That's what the future looks like: customers who become our advocates, not just our clients." He could see a few nods, a flicker of hope igniting. Encouraged, he continued, "Consider the stories behind our names. Look at our community projects, our partnerships. These aren't just marketing gimmicks, they're the heartbeat of what we do. If we forget that, we risk losing not just money, but our very purpose." The executive who had posed the question leaned back in his chair, visibly reconsidering. David's heart raced, maybe he was getting through. He dared to glance around the room, and the tension felt less suffocating. He saw others whispering to each other, intrigued. "Look," David said, his voice gaining momentum, "community doesn't just sustain us, it empowers us to innovate. With their support, we can do so much more. We can lead by example and show that businesses can be successful while being responsible. We can change the narrative." Maria's hand found his on the table, squeezing it gently. The warmth radiated through him, grounding him as he finished. "Let us choose the long game. It's not just about this season, it's about building a legacy. Invest in the people, and they'll invest in us." The room was still, but this time, a palpable shift hung in the air. The executives exchanged glances, thoughtful, reflective. Behind the initial skepticism, David saw sparks of curiosity and contemplation. Then Sam, who had been watching closely, spoke up. "I think we need to take a hard look at this. If we're going to survive, it makes sense to evolve and adapt. What you're suggesting isn't just about saving our company. It's about redefining our identity." Relief washed over David like a cool breeze. They weren't just going to dismiss him, they were considering the vision he had fought for. Laughter and murmurs filled the air again as the conversation turned to fresh ideas, each person eager to weigh in. As the meeting came to an end, David felt a rush of gratitude. They hadn't just salvaged the moment, they had ignited a new energy. Encouragement enveloped him as they all shared optimism. When the full team gathered afterward, David met Maria's gaze. "We did it," he told her, his voice thick with emotion. "I knew you could," she said, pride shining in her eyes. But even amidst the exhilarating wave of hope, a small voice nagged at the back of David's mind. What if this was just the beginning of a much bigger challenge? What other hidden obstacles lay ahead that they had yet to face? Just as he was about to voice his concern, Maria's phone buzzed loudly on the table. She glanced at it, frowning. "Oh no, it's Mom again. What's wrong?" David asked, not able to shake the feeling that something deeper loomed in the shadows. Her face hardened with a mix of worry and frustration. "She's been having trouble with her business, and I think it's worse than I thought." At that moment, David realized they might be stepping into a storm bigger than anything they faced at work. Changes were brewing beyond the office walls, and they might need to rally together for more than just their own cause. "Let us go," he said, a new thread of determination weaving through him. They both knew they couldn't ignore this. But as they headed out the door, David couldn't help but wonder, what challenges awaited them beyond their own ambitions? What would they discover about themselves and about each other when the stakes were even higher? David and Maria stepped out of the building, the cool evening air hitting them like a rush of adrenaline. The weight of the meeting started to fade, replaced by a growing sense of urgency. He could see the worry etched on Maria's face, and it twisted something deep within him. "What do you think she needs?" he asked, trying to gauge Maria's thoughts on the situation. Her mother's struggles had been a recurring theme in their conversations, but now it felt more pressing than ever. "I don't know," Maria admitted, her voice thick with concern. "She's been talking about debts piling up in her store, and I think she's emotionally drained. Maybe we should go help her organize things? She's always been too proud to ask for assistance." They hopped into David's car, and a moment of silence fell over them as he navigated the familiar streets. David's thoughts raced back to the meeting. The conversation had sparked a renewed sense of mission for his company, but the challenges faced within Maria's family loomed just as large. "Do you think she'll be okay with us coming over?" he asked, still unsure of how they could face this new reality together. "She'll appreciate it. She might think it's just more of me worrying too much, but deep down, I think she needs support." Maria sighed, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. "I just hope she opens up to us." As they turned onto a quieter street, the glow of the setting sun painted the horizon in a palette of fiery oranges and soft purples. It felt like a good omen. Yet that nagging worry remained in the corners of David's mind. He reached over and squeezed Maria's hand, offering silent reassurance. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it together," he promised. When they arrived at Maria's mother's storefront, the dimly lit sign read Maria's Boutique, a symbol of her mother's dreams and hard work. David could sense how much this place meant to Maria and her family. He parked the car and took a deep breath. They were stepping into a different kind of challenge, one that felt deeply personal. As they entered, the familiar jingle of the door announced their arrival. The soft music playing inside felt welcoming but melancholic. The boutique was filled with racks of clothing, but the brightness that usually illuminated the space seemed dimmer somehow. Maria's mother, Elena, appeared from the back room, her smile faltering as she saw them. "Maria. David. What a surprise," she called, though the strain in her voice was unmistakable. Maria quickly crossed the room and wrapped her mother in a warm embrace, the kind that spoke volumes of love and care. David hung back for a moment, letting them share their moment, but his heart ached seeing the weariness in Elena's eyes. "Mom, we wanted to check in. Is everything okay?" Maria asked, her tone shifting to a more serious note. Elena hesitated, glancing around as though gathering her thoughts. "Everything's fine. Just the usual hustle and bustle of running a small business." The air felt thick with unspoken words. David watched closely. He could almost hear the weight of the burdens Elena carried, and he felt it too, threading through his own worries for Maria. "Let us sit down and talk," he suggested, stepping forward. "We're here for you, really." As they settled around a small table in the corner, Maria's mother finally let out a sigh. "I appreciate that. It's hard to admit when things aren't working. I don't want to burden either of you." Maria reached for her mother's hand, and David watched the subtle shift that took place. The lines of worry on Elena's face began to soften, and it looked like she might finally crack the shell that held her pain. "Mom," Maria urged gently, looking deep into her mother's eyes, "we love you. You don't have to do this alone." Just then, the phone rang. It felt like an interruption, but the three of them knew in their hearts it was a vital moment. Elena took a deep breath and reached for the phone, but for a fleeting second, David couldn't help but think, what if this was the pivotal moment they had all been waiting for? What if everything changed from here? What revelation awaited them on that phone call? Why did the air feel so electric? Elena's hand trembled slightly as she picked up the receiver. The light in her eyes flickered for a moment, uncertainty draping over her like a heavy mist. David exchanged a glance with Maria, both of them holding their breath, anxious for what was about to unfold. "Hello?" Elena's voice was steadier than she felt, but it cracked just a bit at the edges. A pause followed, and her brow furrowed deeper. Silence stretched between them, a taut wire that threatened to snap. "Mom?" Maria whispered, leaning a little closer, squeezing her mother's other hand. "Who is it?" After what felt like an eternity, Elena finally spoke. "I see. Yes, I understand." Her voice dropped, barely above a whisper. The change in her demeanor was palpable. "What is going on?" David asked, his voice a mixture of concern and urgency. He felt the tension rising in the room like a storm ready to break. Elena lowered her head, her fingers now gripping the phone tightly. "It's about the lease," she finally said, her face ashen. "They want to raise the rent again," and she looked up, her eyes filled with fear. "If I can't make the payments, they might evict me." The words hit David like a punch to the gut. He'd seen the way this shop meant everything to Maria and her family, and the thought of it being snatched away felt unbearable. "Mom, we can figure this out," Maria reassured her, her voice steady. "Just tell us what we can do." Elena shook her head slowly, tears brimming in her eyes. "I've been struggling for months. I didn't want to worry either of you. I thought I could manage it." For a moment, the weight of the world pressed down on all three of them. David glanced around the store, the colorful fabrics and delicate accessories seeming to blur before him. This was more than just a business, it was hope, dreams, and a legacy all tied together within those walls. "Mom, please let us help. We're here now. We're a team," Maria insisted. "Don't go through this alone." Elena's breathing had turned uneven. "You both have your lives, your careers. I don't want to drag you into my mess." "Mom," David interjected, his voice firm yet kind, "we care about you. Please, let us in. Let us support you like you've supported Maria and me." It was then that for the first time, something shifted in Elena's posture. She took a deep breath, finally letting the facade of wanting to be strong crack just a tiny bit. "I just don't know if I can admit defeat," she whispered, embarrassment etching lines into her forehead. "I feel like I've failed after everything I worked for." "Failure isn't asking for help," David replied gently. "It's denying the love from those who want to stand by you." Elena's eyes softened, and the tears began to fall. Maria moved closer, wrapping her arms around her mother once more, pulling her into a comforting embrace. The phone slipped from Elena's hand, landing softly on the table, forgotten for the moment. "What if I lose everything?" she asked, voice muffled against Maria's shoulder. "Then we'll rebuild." Maria's voice was firm, filled with determination. "But not alone. Together. We want to let you go through this without a fight." Elena pulled back slightly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears that spoke volumes. David could see the battle waging inside her, the storm of pride and vulnerability. Just then, the phone buzzed with a notification, a message alert. "What if we don't lose anything?" David proposed. "What if this is just the beginning of a new chapter instead?" Elena looked towards the phone, then back at them, hope flickering gently in her expression. But it was Maria who took a deep breath, nodding fervently. "We can rethink the store, Mom. Maybe even find a way to raise funds to negotiate. It's not too late to find new strategies." The way Maria spoke ignited something in the air, the feeling of possibility, a renewed energy surging through the room. Just then, David's phone chimed with a message, interrupting the moment. A glance revealed it was from a contact back at work. He briefly looked at it but quickly focused back on them. "Let us explore this together. We can. Dive into the numbers later," David urged, trying to keep the momentum going. But Maria's eyes drifted to the phone on the table, curiosity piquing her interest. "What if we wait? What if it's good news?" Elena exchanged a glance with them, unsure yet somehow lighter, as if the weight of her panic had begun to lift, if only just a little. David's heart raced, the atmosphere around them vibrating with a barely contained energy. The next steps felt monumental, uncertain yet filled with hope. Which roads would they choose, and what would the future hold? The question hung in the air, an invitation for all three of them to step into an unknown but promising path ahead. What news awaited them that could pivot their lives in an unexpected direction? As the weight of uncertainty lingered in the air, Maria stepped forward, her resolve sparkling like dawn's first light. "Mom, let us open that message," she said, her voice almost a whisper, yet full of determination. Elena hesitated, her eyes darting between the phone and Maria's encouraging gaze. The tiny device lay there, a symbol of potential change, yet the fear of disappointment gripped her heart. "What if it's more bad news?" she murmured, the edges of her voice shaking. "Then we deal with it," Maria replied confidently, "but we can't move forward until we know." Elena nodded slowly, biting her lip as she reached for the phone. David leaned in closer, sensing the anticipation creeping through the cracks of uncertainty. With a sigh, she tapped the screen, unlocking it. The moment she read the text, her brow furrowed. It's from Mr. Thompson, she said, her heart pounding. He wants to meet with me. What does he want? David asked, almost breathless. Elena's eyes widened for a moment. He says he's reconsidering the lease terms. He may be open to negotiation. Hope surged in the room like a warm breeze on a chilly morning. See? Maria exclaimed, this could be our chance to turn things around. We need to prepare for that meeting. Elena's lips formed a tentative smile. But I don't know what to say. What can I offer him? I'm barely keeping afloat. David smiled reassuringly. This is good news, Mom. We can work through this together. No more hiding. If he sees how passionate you are about this shop, it might change everything. Maria added, we can create a plan. Reasons for why this shop means so much not just to us, but the community. Let us gather stories, testimonials. Let us remind him there's more at stake than just a business transaction. Their enthusiasm spread through Elena like wildfire. For the first time in a long while, she felt an ember of empowerment flicker inside her. Okay, but what if I mess up? What if he doesn't take me seriously? Then we'll make sure he does, Maria insisted. We're in this together. As they began brainstorming ideas, the atmosphere shifted. Elena's fears chipped away, replaced by a sense of focus, a determination to fight for what was irreplaceable. Ideas flew back and forth like the joyful sounds of laughter, their previously tense hearts now starting to heal. Hours later, Elena stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her blouse and smoothing her hair. Her reflection stared back at her, a woman ready to face her fears. Maria was preparing beside her, muttering reminders and positive affirmations under her breath, while David gathered papers and notes, piecing together their pitch. Just remember, David said, meeting her gaze in the mirror, it's not just about the shop. It's about family, legacy, and community. You've given so much to everyone, now's the time to ask for what you deserve. Elena felt a swell of emotion. Thank you both. I don't know what I'd do without you. Together, they echoed, the word binding them closer, a simple yet powerful mantra repeating in each of their hearts. As they prepared to leave, Elena picked up the phone again. What if I need you both with me? We'll be right outside, Maria assured her. Just in case you need a pep talk. Taking a deep breath, Elena stepped out of the door, her heart racing as her anxieties transformed into fierce determination. With every step towards her meeting, she could already feel the change, the energy pulling her toward a new beginning. The air around her felt charged, tinged with fresh possibilities and the promise of transformation. What awaited her inside the office? Would she find the strength to claim her dreams, or would the shadows of doubt come creeping back? The weight of anticipation settled upon her shoulders, thick and thrilling. Each step drew her closer to a moment that could change everything. What did Mr. Thompson really have in store for her? Elena stood outside the office, her heart racing like a drum beating out an urgent rhythm. She took a final look at her reflection in the glass doors. Could she really pull this off? Doubts clawed at her insides, but she squashed them down. Today was not about fear. It was about hope, and for the first time, she believed. She pushed the door open and stepped into the bright, sterile office. The air smelled of fresh coffee and something like ambition, yet her stomach twisted into knots. Mr. Thompson was at his desk, a well-dressed man with sharp features and a reputation for being cold. But today, she hoped to crack that ice. Ms. Rivera, he said, glancing up from his papers, his expression unreadable. Mr. Thompson, thank you for meeting with me. She kept her tone steady, even though her heart thudded loudly in her ears. He gestured for her to sit. As she settled into the chair, she focused on her breathing, picturing the support of Maria and David just outside. She remembered their words, it's all about family, legacy, and community. Let us get to it, he said flatly, leaning back and crossing his arms. You know I'm not renewing the lease in its current form. It's not viable. Elena took a deep breath, grounding herself in the mission. I understand. But I believe there's still a way for us to work together. This shop, it's more than a business to me. It's a home, a community hub. He lifted an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself. Go on. Every day, we help people. We provide comfort, a connection. Just last week, an elderly man came in, unsure if he'd ever find that perfect gift for his wife's birthday. We helped him not just find a gift but reignited memories of their love. It's those moments that matter. She could see the flicker of interest in his eyes and pressed on. I've spoken to several regulars who feel the same. This shop isn't just a transaction, it's a part of their stories. And it's a piece of our neighborhood's heart. Mr. Thompson's posture softened slightly, though he remained inscrutable. And how do you plan to make it viable? Elena hesitated for a heartbeat, the weight of the question pressing down. But Maria's determination echoed in her mind. We can adjust the product offerings, maybe offer workshops or community events, create experiences. We can build something together that benefits us both. Workshops, he mused, tapping his fingers together. That could be interesting. But I'll need a solid plan. Something concrete, not just words. Of course. I've already started drafting some ideas. We'd work closely together to gather feedback from community members, adapt to their needs. He studied her, his gaze penetrating. You seem determined. But what if it doesn't work? What's your backup? Elena felt the heat of disappointment rising but met his stare with conviction. I refuse to think like that. What I can assure you is that this community will rally. We have the heart. And with your support, we have a chance. A silence fell between them. She could see him weighing her words, the tension palpable, almost electric. You know, you're not the first tenant who's come to me with stories. But there's something about you. He leaned forward, intrigued. You may actually mean it. Elena's heart soared, but just as quickly, doubt crept back in. Was she getting her hopes up too high? Let's put something together, he said finally, his voice clear. I want to see what you come up with. But you have to remember, this is a business decision. If it doesn't work out, we may still part ways. She nodded, fighting back tears of relief and renewed strength. I understand, and I'll show you that this can work. As she rose to leave, she couldn't shake the feeling that this could be the turning point. The door swung open, revealing Maria and David waiting anxiously outside. As she stepped through, the glow of hope flooded back in. But even as they hugged her tightly, Elena couldn't help but wonder, was this the breakthrough they needed, or was the wolf of uncertainty still lurking in the shadows? With Mr. Thompson's last words ringing in her ears, the uncertainty loomed large, promising twists and turns on their path ahead. What would happen when she unveiled her full plan? Would she truly convince him, or would the ground shift beneath her feet once again? Elena held her breath as David and Maria enveloped her in their supportive embrace. Their warmth ignited a flicker of hope that she dared not extinguish. I think he's willing to listen, she whispered, half afraid to believe the words. Maria's eyes sparkled. That's incredible, Mom. This is your moment. What's next? David, always the calming presence, squeezed Elena's shoulders. We strategize. You've got this. Clarity surged through Elena as she gazed at their anticipation. She could feel the energy in the room shifting, crackling with possibility. I'll draft a comprehensive plan, not just ideas but actionable steps. We can showcase community engagement, maybe even enlist some local artists and small businesses to collaborate. This is bigger than just my store, it's about revitalizing our whole neighborhood. Yes. Let us meet up tonight to outline everything, Maria urged, a passionate fire igniting in her. As they walked to their car, the dusk cloaked the streets in a soothing embrace, painting the horizon in deep purples and golds. David held the door open for Elena, who slid into the passenger seat, her pulse racing. What if Mr. Thompson still says no? She pondered aloud, the anxiety creeping in like a shadow. Then we pivot. We've faced bigger battles, David reassured her, glancing her way as the car hummed to life. You've got a vision, and it's powerful. You can stir change not just for yourself but for everyone. When they reached Maria's apartment, it felt like a sanctuary filled with untapped energy. They settled at the kitchen table, pens scratching against paper as ideas flowed. They crafted ideas for community-centered workshops, events that could draw people in. Each suggestion sparked excitement, and laughter echoed through the rooms as they fleshed out details. Imagine hosting a Meet Your Neighbors festival. Local businesses could set up booths, share stories. Elena beamed, the influx of energy turning her worries into aspirations. And we can have a storytelling session, Maria added. People can come share their experiences, create connections. Make it personal. Her enthusiasm was contagious. It was a whirlwind of positivity and determination until suddenly, David raised a finger in thoughtful surprise. What if we secured a few local sponsors? This could attract attention and strengthen community ties. Brilliant! Elena exclaimed. We can formulate a sponsorship package to present not just value, but a shared mission. A partnership for growth. As the hours melted away and night enveloped the world outside, they completed an entire outline, a roadmap to coax Mr. Thompson into seeing the potential that lay before him. Elena could feel the confidence building, it felt like reclaiming a part of herself long forgotten. Tomorrow we'll finalize everything and make those calls, Maria said, already typing on her phone. I'll reach out to local vendors and see who wants to pitch in. Great, Elena replied, a grin stretching across her face. Let us meet early, I want to walk in there prepared. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the room and with it came even more energy. Together, they got up before dawn, fueled by coffee and adrenaline. The day unfolded, a parade of optimism draped over them, revitalizing every corner of their hearts. When the clock struck 10 a.m., Elena stood outside Mr. Thompson's office again, but this time it felt different, invigorating, like the world was right at her fingertips. As she stepped inside, she saw him sitting at his desk, engaged with his papers. Good morning, Ms. Rivera, he greeted, glancing up with a hint of curiosity. I've put together a proposal. I believe this shop has more to offer than just retail. It's about community. It's about us. Elena laid down the plan, detailing the workshops, outreach efforts, testimonials, and the collaborative spirit woven through every idea. Mr. Thompson's eyebrows raised in surprise. Interesting, he murmured, flipping through the pages. You've really thought this out. I believe we can create something beautiful together. This isn't just a business decision. It's about the heart of our neighborhood. She could see something shifting, temptation mingling with intrigue painting his features. If this pans out, it could redefine your shop's position here. Yes, exactly. It's all about building something lasting, rather than just maintaining status quo. Elena felt the surge of hope as she finished, all anxiety melting away. After a thoughtful silence, he looked at her, scrutinizing her determination. All right, I'll give it a chance. Let us see how this works. Joy erupted in her chest. Thank you. Thank you so much. As she left, she couldn't contain her excitement, bursting back into the waiting arms of Maria and David. He agreed to consider it. She shouted, laughter bubbling through the air like a song. Yes. Maria cried out, enveloping her in a hug. David beamed with pride. What now? We prepare for implementation. At that moment, Elena felt renewed love for her work, flowing through her veins like a fresh tide. She was not just a shop owner, she was fighting for her community, turning a business into a beacon of hope. I can't do this without you too. We'll make this work. And as they stood together, the world felt boundless. They were kindred spirits navigating an ocean of potential challenges but anchored by a shared purpose. Elena felt free, liberated from the fears she once grasped so tightly. The journey was just blasting off, and she was ready to seize the joy and hardships that lay ahead because together, they would paint a brighter future, not just for her shop, but for the community that thrived on the nurturing bonds they created. She raised her arm high, to new beginnings. David and Maria cheered in response, their voices ringing out as echoes of unwavering hope wrapped around them. In the forever shifting dance of life, they found their rhythm, surrounded by the beauty of awakening dreams and endless possibilities. Now was the moment to embrace transformation. Together, they would flourish. You need to subscribe now to never miss this inspiring journey. This is the moment to show your support, so please leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let them feel the power of community like you just did.